So once she said all of these symptoms for bipolar disorder, I went, oh, yeah, that is so me. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or to it if this is the first time you are seeing my face. Thank you for clicking on it. My name is Jacy, and as you saw by the title, I have bipolar disorder. I was diagnosed last summer. I have been medicated for about 7 months now, and I thought it was about time to tell you guys all about how I learned what my symptoms really were, going about getting a diagnosis, and how I've been coping since learning I had this mood disorder. This video is not intended to diagnose you guys or for you to diagnose yourselves based on some of the symptoms I'm talking about. This is my own personal experience. I am not a medical professional, but I also believe in continuing to raise awareness about mental illnesses because it's something that so many of us struggle with. And I love that it's becoming so destigmatized, but it's definitely a conversation I want to continue to have on all of my channels, because if you guys are going through things, just know that you are not alone. And I wanted to share some of my own experiences with you as well, in case you are able to relate. So you know what the video is going to be about, but let me tell you about how I got diagnosed with bipolar disorder and how I've been dealing with it since. So first, let's talk about my history with depression. Now, I use depression in air quotes because I have never considered myself to having had depression. And the reason for that is I've always called them depressive episodes. So for as long as I could remember, I would have bouts of sadness, I guess. They would just last a couple of days where I would have traditional depressive symptoms where I couldn't get out of bed, I was sleeping all the time, loss of appetite, loss of motivation and productivity. But it kind of would always go away within a few days. It wasn't until 2020 that I realized, like, oh, these depressive episodes are getting pretty depressive. During 2020, I moved into an apartment all by myself, and that was a rough year for reasons I shouldn't have to explain to anybody. But that year was very, very tough on my mental health. I'm sure you guys can relate to that. And it was the first time I noticed that, like, oh yeah, these are like depressive episodes, not just like I have the big sad for a couple of days, but they were pretty debilitating. So during these depressive episodes, I would sleep about 14 hours every single day for like 4 days in a row. Wouldn't even need to wake up and use the bathroom. I could just sleep all the way through it and wake up still feeling like I could sleep some more. My family would call me and they'll be like, oh, what are you up to? And I'll tell them, oh, I did a 14er yesterday, so just trying to get back to the swing of things. And that was me saying that I slept for 14 hours. I had a term for it because if I did a 14er, that means that's why I wasn't responding, because I was sleeping for the whole day. So I would sleep a lot, but it was also becoming that I couldn't get out of bed, that I was very sad and just wanted to listen to sad music and kind of felt like, what's the point of getting up today? I have nothing to do. Nothing's going right in my life. Who cares? I also started to notice that simple tasks became extremely difficult to do. And I actually have a couple of TikToks that went pretty viral because people fully commiserated with this.
I was talking to my friend on the phone and I told her how I've had like kind of a stiff neck. And she said, oh, did you sleep wrong? And I said, yeah, I've been sleeping on the couch the past couple of nights, so that's probably why. She's like, why have you been sleeping on the couch? And I said, honestly, it's because my bed is just covered in laundry and I just haven't gotten to it yet. And she said, just do your laundry. Is that what it's like for people without mental illness? They could just do things?
My depression has been so bad this week that I haven't been able to do dishes, and so I just ate breakfast with a charcuterie board fork. So not only were the dishes not getting done, laundry's not getting done, but I would stop taking care of myself. I wouldn't brush my teeth for a few days. I wouldn't shower. I wouldn't change out of the pajamas. And this was because I work a social media job where I just sit in front of a camera and film. I didn't need to be going out into the world and needing good hygiene. And so I really started to notice when I would get into these episodes, based on like the external things in my apartment first, I would notice that the dishes are piling up and that there's clothes lying everywhere. I would notice that, oh shoot, there are crusty pizza stains on this sweatshirt because I haven't changed in 3 days. But because I was living alone, nobody really knew, and I was able to really immerse myself into the depression, if that makes sense, because I got to hole up in my little burrow here, my little depressive cocoon, and nobody really knew about it. And I didn't talk to anybody about it because If I'm in the privacy of my own apartment going through a depressive episode, I didn't need to call my sister and tell her. My friends don't need to know that that's why I'm not going out this weekend. And so these were very isolating times because I had no energy to make plans with friends. I had no energy to take care of myself or my apartment. I also just wasn't telling people what was going on in my head, sort of thing. So I always felt like very lonely and isolated when these episodes did happen. But again, I only called it episodes and not full depression, because 4 days later, I would snap out of it and be totally fine, if not better. So there always seemed to be a pattern of these depressive episodes where after 4 days, I would immediately snap out of it, where not only do I have this newfound energy, but my mindset would change too, which was always really weird. I would wake up one day and be like, oh my God, what was I thinking? I am the coolest person in the world. Why was I even sad? I'm better than everybody. Why am I not famous yet? I deserve it, and I would be really good at this job. Like, this is wild. I'm so much better than everybody else. Like, my mind would change like that. I'd wake up and it was like energy would be pulsating through my blood all of a sudden, where it was like, I'd look at this depression den that I had created for the past 4 days and be like, oh, this is embarrassing. How'd I let it get this bad? All right, time to clean. Dishes would be done in 20 minutes. I'll do 6 loads of laundry, vacuum, mop, clean the windows, dust off my fake plants, all of the above. I not only would be able to clean and run errands, but I would fixate on them. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling so great today. Let's get as much done as we can. Let's go run all of those errands. You know what? Let's go shopping. You know what? Let's start a new hobby. I have a video on my channel about how I used to hyperfixate on hobbies, and that is this to a T, where I would be scrolling on TikTok, I'd see somebody who took up cross-stitching, and I'd be like, oh my God, I need to become a professional cross-stitcher right now. Let's go to Michael's, buy $300 worth of equipment, and become a cross-stitching champion of the world. And then give it up 3 days later. During this time, I would talk really, really fast. I would have an elevated heartbeat to the point where my Fitbit would be like, whoa, are you exercising? And I'm like, what are you talking about? No, I'm sitting here trying to plan all the videos for the next year, because I also felt so much more creative and productive. I would sit down and make a whole new list of goals. I would redo my planner pages. I would be like, what was that funk I just had? That's never happening again. I am so productive. We are gonna sit here and plan out every video for the next 3 years, and I'm gonna project and budget my millions of dollars that I deserve and should have, because I'm gonna be famous because I'm better than everyone. These were the thoughts going through my head at this time. And during these episodes where I would snap out of being sad, it was not only coupled with the high energy, the new motivation, the creativity, but it was also marked by a period of impulsivity. And that for me translated into poor financial decisions. So like I mentioned, I would feel impulsive and want to buy everything a cross stitcher would need. That happened a lot. I also have another video about how I wanted to give up thrift shopping for a while. And a big part of that was I was a retail therapy kind of person, where after I was sad for 4 days, I was like, I deserve a little treat. Let's go spend $40 at Goodwill on 12 clothing items that I'm never gonna wear and donate back in 6 months. Or I was also just buying things I didn't need just because I was like, I'm not sad anymore. Let's get out of the house and go to Target. I'll buy my little Starbucks cup. I'll go shopping at Target and spend $150 that I didn't need. If you guys watch the vlogs, you know this. I have so many Target trips in my vlogs because that's how I coped with it. I would also spend a lot of money impulsively planning trips. So again, if you also watch the vlogs, you would know I traveled a lot last year, all domestically for the most part, but I was hitting up new cities. I went to Cancun twice. I went to Puerto Rico, Boston, Chicago, Mississippi, anywhere and everywhere. And it's because I would snap out of these depressive episodes and be like, oh, I deserve a trip. Like, I need to treat myself because I can't let that happen again. And I deserve it. Let's go to flight details. And yeah, let's book this Mexican resort. So I spent a lot last year, and I think it was because I tried to overcorrect a lot of these depressive episodes. And I don't know if it was a feeble attempt to hope that they never came back, or if it was my way of coping with the depressive episodes. But the point is that I would get these episodes for 4 days, and then I'd snap out of it and go into a much more hyper-creative state. So it was at this point, spring of last year, that I became aware of this pattern that was happening, that every week I would have about 4 days bad, followed by 4 days good. There was a pattern, I saw it, so I leaned into it, and I essentially scheduled my entire life knowing that I'm gonna have these 4 bad days. So I actually made planner pages myself, where essentially I allowed myself 3 days a week to do absolutely nothing, because the other 3 days that I know I'd be feeling better, I would just get it all done. And it's kind of like I regulated my system to where every week I'd be like, uh-oh, I'm having a low day. Pfft, I guess these next 3 days are a wash. It's all right. I know in 3 more days I'm gonna feel better. I'll be able to clean up this mess. I'll be able to get those videos done. It's totally fine. Let me fully immerse myself into this depression. So I would just fully indulge in the sadness. Once I felt my energy starting to dip, I was just like, okay, it's happening. I'm gonna scroll on TikTok for 8 hours tonight. I'm gonna watch 3 movies in the next 10 hours. I'm just gonna order pizza or not even eat, because a lot of times I didn't have an appetite when I was depressed. And then in 3 days, I would look at my planner and be like, oh, cool, we're feeling better. Let's get everything on my to-do list done. Let's go run those errands. Let's go run those chores. Let's go make those videos. Oh my God, I've also been wanting to take up crocheting. Maybe let's go try crocheting. Or we could do like mosaic art. You know what? Let's just go to the craft store and we can figure it out. And I grew to love when I snapped out of the depressive episodes, because I was so productive. And the weird thing about like these swings is that, again, I wasn't telling anybody, because nobody needed to know, because I was still getting everything I needed to get done. Because during those hyper days, I'd catch up on my to-do list. I'd call everybody back. I would put up videos and I would show up for work. It was the depressive episodes that nobody needed to know about, because I was conditioning my body to snap out of it every 4 days, and then it wouldn't even be a problem. So nobody even needed to know. So this little schedule that I had made for myself was working, because I was getting everything I needed to get done. It was working until about summer of last year. So this past summer of 2022, everything felt different in my brain. When I would have my depressive episodes, I felt sad, like I always did, but the sadness was heavy. It was a heavier sad. And, you know, everything was always marked by low energy, low motivation. It went from low to none. I had no energy to get out of bed for 2 days, which not only meant that I wasn't showering anything, I wouldn't eat for 2 days, because if I had to put peanut butter on a piece of bread, that was too much work for me. It wasn't gonna happen. So I stopped eating. I stopped really getting out of bed, and I still had the mindset of, okay, well, I'll snap out of it in a few days. It's fine. Just your body needs rest. Be kind to yourself. Just let yourself be sad. But tasks were getting even harder to do. They weren't even difficult anymore. They were impossible. I remember there was one week where I actually bought underwear off of Amazon because I couldn't do a load of laundry. It was easier to just buy new clothes than to wash things that I had. I remember feeling hungry from not eating, but I would go to sleep for dinner, I called it, because I was like, I have no energy to make dinner. Well, I'm already tired, let's just go back to sleep. And so I would have sleep for dinner. But the hard part was that the sadness was the saddest it's ever been, and to a level that I had not experienced before. So while I would be laying in bed, not being able to get out of bed, I noticed my thoughts were getting worse, where it started to definitely feel more like, what's the point? Why even get out of bed? Let me just never leave this bed, because there's nothing going on in life anyway. Like I mentioned, I was also traveling a lot this year, and I'd be traveling and be seemingly happy, but there were numerous times where I'd be on the plane and think, if this plane crashed, I'd be okay with that. I'd be driving around Los Angeles and I'd be like, if I got into a car accident today, you know, I lived a good life. I'd be okay with dying right now. And I remember like another scary one was in my apartment. I remember thinking to myself, it would be really cool if I got cancer right now, because then I could like die, but it's not my fault, and everybody would love me and have a cherished memory of me, and I would go out as a fighter rather than the weak person that I actually am. And I remember looking this up because, I don't know, TikTok gets in your head, all those things. And I remember telling myself, like, that's not being suicidal. I don't want to kill myself. Oh my God, I would never kill myself. I've never thought about killing myself, so no. Turns out all of those things are passive suicide ideations. And it is a form of suicidal thoughts. And it's not something that I thought I had, because to me, I was still in this mindset of, I just have depressive episodes. But don't worry, I snap right out of them. And it was at this time that I realized, oh, no, this is bad. This is depression, and I need to get help. So that's what I did. I realized these thoughts are not normal and they're not getting any better. Let's go seek some medical help. So I made an appointment with a doctor, and at my doctor's appointment, she was like, okay, like, what are you in for? And I was like, well, I have depression and I want to see what you recommend, medication, therapy, I don't know, you're the doctor. So she starts giving me like an assessment sort of thing and is asking me the traditional questions in the sense of, like, do you feel lack of motivation, lack of energy, loss of appetite, all of those things? And it was like a resounding, yes, yes, check, check, all of the above. But I remember something changed in her narrative when she asked, and how long have you been depressed? And I was like, well, it's not like always like this. It's kind of like I'll have 4 depressed days and then 4 days not depressed. But like lately, the 4 days that I am depressed, they're really bad. And that's what I need help with. And she was like, huh, that's interesting. Let's start talking about the days that you're not depressed. She says, when you are not depressed, do you feel like an elevated mood? And I said, yes, I'm not depressed anymore. She said, but does this mood make you feel like you're a god, or that you're better than everybody, or that you have this sense of grandiosity about yourself? And I was like, get out of my head, lady. Yes, how did you know that? You must believe in me too. She also asked if I end up spending a lot of money when I come out of my depressive episodes. And I was like, ding, ding, ding. You have another winner on that one. That would be correct. She said, do I require a lot of sleep when I'm depressed, but require basically none when I snap out of it? And I was like, yeah, that's crazy that you mentioned it. I never really realized it, but when I snap out of the depression, I kind of only need 4 hours of sleep every night. Didn't even realize that, but it's because I just have so many things to do and the energy to do it. It's great, finally. So that's when my doctor says, well, Jacy, I don't know, good news and bad news. Good news is you don't have depression. Woohoo! I guess the bad news is that you have bipolar disorder. And I was like, that's the, what? When she said this, how I responded is no, because bipolar disorder is where people get angry at the drop of the hat and start yelling at their friends and family. I don't do that. I don't get angry. I don't snap in and out of it. Like, that's not me. I know people who have bipolar disorder, because you always say like, oh my God, they're so bipolar. They get angry all of a sudden, or they'll get super moody and anxious and have to leave. Like, no, I don't have that. Nothing of what I said is that. My doctor proceeds to tell me what I'm referring to is borderline personality disorder, which is also BPD, bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder. She said that what you're describing is borderline personality disorder, but it's a personality disorder. What I have is a mood disorder. It is chemical, it is genetic, it is something that I will have for my entire life, and is something that can only be fixed with medication. And so I'm like, wait, what? I still don't understand. So she diagnosed me with bipolar disorder 2. And what this is it's basically a mood swing disorder where my moods will drastically swing from being extremely depressed to hypomanic. And it was the hypomanic part that I never understood what was happening, because I would be in these depressive episodes. I would fully understand that I was depressed, but then I'd snap out of it and think, okay, I don't have depression. What I would then launch my body into are these hypomanic episodes, which is why I would go and impulsively spend money. I would feel hyper productive and energetic and creative. I required less sleep. I wanted to take up new hobbies. And I basically would just try to overcompensate from all the sad bits that I had in the past 4 days by swinging on the other end of the spectrum. So once she said all of these symptoms for bipolar disorder, I went, oh, yeah, that is so me. One of the scary parts that she mentioned was that she essentially said that I was conditioning my body to be the perfect vehicle for bipolar disorder, because the way I was scheduling out my week, knowing I'd be depressed and then knowing I'd be hypomanic, my body was regulating itself to be bipolar. And it made sense because your body can never reach that little middle point if you're always swinging from one end to the other. But the part that I realized I had to cope with was that I liked the hypomanic part over here. I was productive, I had cool ideas, I was fun, even though I talked really fast. That I was like, well, can't we just bring this up a little bit more? And the way she described it is that in order to treat bipolar disorder, you can't have the big swings anymore. If this is your range, we're trying to get your range to here, somewhere closer in the middle, where you're not super depressed, but you're not super hypomanic anymore. And so I said, all right, doctor, let's cure me. So step one of getting cured of bipolar disorder is knowing that you can't cure it. It is a lifetime genetic mood disorder. So that was the first thing. She's like, you're gonna have this for forever, so might as well get used to it. But here's how you can get used to it. I asked if therapy would be a good option, and she actually said that therapy isn't treatment for bipolar disorder because it is a chemical mood swing disorder. You can use therapy to cope with some of the symptoms of bipolar disorder. So for instance, if my depression were to continue at a very detrimental rate, therapy would be great for figuring out the trauma behind that and how to cope with it. For bipolar disorder, you need to get medicated. So I said, all right, fill up my prescription. Let's get me on some pills. So when it comes to taking pills for bipolar, it's really interesting because you have to go slow and steady because the pills might have the opposite effect of what you would want it for. So let me explain. There are two different types of bipolar disorder. There's BPD-1, BPD-2. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder 2, which basically means of the bipolar disorders, I lean more towards the depressed side. The depressed side is what is making my life unbearable, and that's the part of the chemicals that I need to kind of elevate a little bit more. Bipolar depression 1 leans towards manic, to where they're trying to get you to come down this way and calm yourself a little bit more. So when they were prescribing me a medication, they said, well, we want to get your depression from here to here. The problem is that if we think you have the wrong bipolar and you're actually going from here to here, you could have a psychotic break, and that wouldn't be good. So in order to just make sure they're giving you the right medications, you have to slowly work your way up in dosage. And when I mean slowly, I mean it took me about 4 months to get to a good level of dosage in my medication, which means I didn't even really feel the effects of the medication for months. But that was a safety reason. That's just to make sure I don't go into a psychotic episode and to make sure that they're treating what they think I actually have, because any diagnosis you're gonna get is not the be all end all. It could be a mixture of different things, but it's just to make sure that you're not going crazy with meds and then realizing, uh-oh, that's not what we should have been giving you. I personally went on a medication called lamotrigine. This one, just as a side note, does have this very rare rash that can occur, and it can be fatal. Just as a side note, if you end up going on this medication, your doctor will tell you all about that. They warned me about it a million times. But in rare instances, it can create the rash, and you got to go to the hospital immediately. Didn't happen with me, but I did start this medication, and it took 3 months to get titrated up, is what they called it. During this titration process of slowly incorporating more and more meds into my meds, I guess you could describe it like that, it was hell. It was absolute hell taking this new medication because I experienced every single side effect possible by this medication. I had the worst insomnia to the point where it was painful to try to fall asleep. I've never experienced it before because during the hypomanic stages, it was like, oh, I don't really need sleep. I'll just keep working. But on this medication, it was like, I can't fall asleep and it hurts to close my eyes, but my brain is begging me to fall asleep and everything hurts from it. I was so irritable. So sorry to all my friends, family, and loved ones. I was so mean for 3 months. Somebody would bump into me in the grocery store and I was ready to throw hands. I was so angry for no reason. I was also nauseous, had headaches. Pretty much every side effect happened, but it was just one of those things where it's just a short-term sacrifice for it to be better in the long run. It was during this time, though, that I started to notice the good effects of the medication. And I very vividly remember one day I woke up and there was nothing in my head. And I remember being like, I feel nothing. Not in like a numb sense of like, I don't feel anything, but I didn't realize that every day I always woke up feeling something, and that something was either hopelessness, worthlessness, sadness, or creativity, energy, excitement. And those were the two ranges that I woke up this morning and I realized I'm in the middle and my brain is calm, and I can't imagine that this is how everybody else in the world wakes up and feels, because this feels so relieving. And so that's when I was all in on medication. I could feel it changing my life. I was calling friends and family being like, hey guys, great news. I just got diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but it's okay because I'm getting treatment. And the medication is changing my life. I had no idea that medication works to that extent. That's so silly to say, but I feel like there is still this stigma behind mental illness in the sense of like people are fearful of taking medications when there could be other methods of coping with depression. I had a chemical imbalance and these pills fixed it to the point where I would wake up and just feel normal. And that was the greatest feeling that I've ever felt. So why now? Why am I telling you guys about this now? It has been 8 months since I got my diagnosis, 8 months since I've been on medication. And I think I waited to tell you guys, one, to make sure that that's what it was. Like, I didn't want to come out here crying wolf being like, hey guys, just yesterday I got diagnosed with bipolar disorder, so stay tuned for more updates sort of thing. Like, I didn't want to turn it into content when like that might not have been the correct diagnosis. I also wanted to make sure that the medication was actually working so I could give recommendations or tell you a little bit more about the experience. I don't know. But I guess I just wanted to live with it for a little bit and see really how learning about this diagnosis and how getting treatment for it has impacted my life so that I can come tell you guys about it 8 months post-diagnosis rather than like, I don't know, a week or two. I will say that the vlog channel has known about this for many, many months. That's their reward for following my vlogs, is they got to know all this sooner. So if you want even more inside scoops about me, go watch my vlogs. But I have been talking about on my vlog channel. I have been kind of keeping people updated. But if you watch the vlog channel and you watch my most recent vlog, you will also know that I am not doing great again lately, which is kind of one of the driving forces that I really wanted to make this video right now. I'm not impulsive right now. Oh, maybe I am. Dang it. So let me tell you a little bit about it, because mental health and this mood disorder is not going great right now. So I recently had a hypomanic episode, and I just kind of thought it was funny. I went to go buy a record player because my parents gave me some of their records, and it turned into an all-day impulsive shopping trip that I actually pretty much regret now. I'll just play you the TikTok because it makes a lot more sense than me telling you now. So I might be the dumbest person alive, but here is my record player saga. In my last video, I inherited some vinyls from my parents, but I didn't have the actual player. I go and I buy a record player, but it didn't work. I called my brother and he asked, well, did you buy speakers for it? And I said, speakers? It's a record player, what do you mean? Apparently I didn't buy an all-in-one, so I went back to Best Buy, I bought some speakers, I bring it back, but I realized I needed an aux cord for the speakers, but my record player had RCA cables. So I go back to Best Buy to buy the adapter, they don't have it. I go to Office Depot because it said that it was in stock, but it was delivery only for a week later, and I needed it now. So I go to Guitar Center because they had it, but they closed 10 minutes early. Super rude. But the next day I go back to Guitar Center, I get my adapter, plug it in, and my record player plays. But this is just a PSA that apparently you need speakers for a record player, and I didn't know that. So I spent all day buying this record player. I spent like $400, get it all set up, and I'm like, I don't even really like this anymore. And then I had to sit there being like, dang it, I'm in a hypomanic episode right now. Darn, that's the bipolar disorder, lols. Like, I don't know, I just thought it was like silly and funny. But what I forgot about with this mood disorder is that the further up that I swing, the more that my body's gonna overcompensate, and I'm gonna swing further down to this range again. I've been sleeping a lot. I think in the past 3 days, I took 2 naps per day on top of me just normal sleeping because I was tired. I haven't been eating much. My food is spoiling in my fridge, and I think I've been eating a sleeve of Ritz crackers for dinners every night because it's all I can do. I haven't returned a phone call in like a week. I'm not picking up the phone when I see it ringing from family or friends. I feel overwhelmed by basic social interaction right now. The thought of planning something to hang out with friends, to go out and about, feels so overwhelming. But I'm also just getting annoyed with everybody who is trying to reach out to me. Like, I want to be like left alone in my depressive cocoon. Leave me alone. And so it's been hard because I'll tell people like, oh, I'm having a bad week, because that's always my euphemism for I'm having a really depressive episode and I'm trying to not let the suicidal thoughts come back. But I'll tell people it's a bad week. And it's hard because so many people just ask, well, why? What's going on? I don't know. I don't know how to answer that, because it's not a why. It just is. It's a chemical thing in my brain that I'm still trying to work through. And it's hard. It's hard. It's hard feeling like you've come so far with the medication and with changing your mindset, to waking up today and thinking, why did I set those New Year's resolutions? I'm not going to hit them. I'm just going to give up. There's no point. But I'm not giving up. In fact, I'm doing the opposite. I called my doctor a couple days ago and we are titrating up my medication again. So hopefully that will start improving and getting my range a little bit closer to the middle ground. I plan to start therapy soon to help with those coping strategies that maybe I haven't been able to deal with in terms of those depressive episodes, and getting more towards the root of traumas that I might have and kind of working through those. But I also really wanted to make this video to remind you guys that mental health is always going to be an ongoing struggle. It's not something that can be cured with a magic pill. It's always going to be something that you need to work hard to maintain. And that's something that I'm going to do, and I want to be honest with you guys about it. Because I would hope that it would help somebody who is looking up symptoms of bipolar disorder to see this video and think, oh, that is me. This is what I can expect from this journey, but it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. I just need to keep working at it. And I think by sharing this with you guys, I'm able to remain open about it, because like I was saying before, I would create this depression den of my apartment. I would isolate, wouldn't tell anybody what's going on. And I don't think that that was the best way to go about managing my mental health struggles. So I'm going to continue to be open about it. I'm going to continue to share my struggles, because I think that'll not only help me, but maybe help somebody out there who is going through something similar, and show that even if you struggle with it, even if it's hard, you're not alone. I also really wanted to make this video to prove to myself that I don't need to do my hair and makeup every day just to film a video. I can sit here in my Serena Williams sweatshirt and glasses and 3-day-old hair and still talk to you guys, because I don't want to let these episodes of low energy prevent me from reaching my goals, to completely inhibit any type of career path that I'm trying to make for myself. So this video is in part to hold me accountable and making sure I'm doing what I need to do to maintain my career goals and my mental health goals, but also to remind you guys that we're all going through something. So you got to be kind not only to others, but be kind to yourself, and seek any help that you need, because it's only going to help you. But that's going to be it for this video. I hope it was insightful. I hope you guys can't relate to it, because I always hate when, I'm struggling with something and somebody else can relate, but it really does help to open up the conversation and talk to each other in the comments. So let me know if you guys resonated with anything in this video and how you guys might cope with some of your depressive episodes, because honestly, I am always looking for tips. If you enjoyed this video and you are not subscribed, consider subscribing. I I normally have much lighter content on this channel. And they're usually a lot more fun and funny and I'm doing something, but I just wanted to sit down and chit chat with you guys. But if you want to join me again, make sure to subscribe so you can be here for any future uploads. But I thank you guys so much for continuing to support me, for watching my videos, and for being there during these times where I kind of just need to vent, and it really helps to have my community talking to me about it. So thank you guys so much. I'll see you in the next video. Toodles! You know what the medication didn't fix, though, with having bipolar disorder, is I still have lots of thoughts that I deserve to be famous because I'm better than everyone. So that is an incurable disease called delusion.